up? Hi, I'm Di Brown and this is Baje Stage TV. What is Baje Stage TV? Well, Baje Stage TV is all about Bajan theatre and Bajan theatre practitioners. And we're here at Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre, the mecca of theatre for almost 100 years. Located here in Queen's Park, a national park here in Barbados. Now, this Queen's Park house, which was originally built in 1786, the first floor was transformed into the Queen's Park Art Gallery, and the second floor into the Queen's Park Theatre. Yep, and that's where we are right now. Some people say theatre is dead. Is it dead? Is it asleep? It's COVID times. Well, we know that for us to know where we're going, we have to talk about where we came from. So it's all about talking to theatre practitioners. Now, the theatre practitioner we are going to talk to today, he was here when this Queen's Park Theatre was renamed Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre after theatre teacher and stalwart Daphne Joseph Hackett. Who is this person? Well, the one and only Victor Clifford.
Across the street to retrieve the bucket. A few malicious windows with heads in them and kerosene lamps next to the heads peeped out. I walked through the valley of the shadow of Cain.
So I was born in St. Lucia, but I came here as a baby, about 18 months old. So, you know, as a child, I don't know much about the St. Lucian experience, but I know I was born there. And by the time I became conscious of myself, I was here in Barbados and listened to Radio Fusion. And Radio Fusion was, in a way, a catalyst for a lot of things in my life, including theater. So you would hear on mornings the stories, the ugly duckling, whatever. And I would sit under the radio. I had to look after cleaning the front house, but I would sit under the radio and listen to these stories, and you probably understand something about radio. What radio does is that radio forces you to imagine what it is that you are hearing. So you have a visual thing happening in your mind while you're hearing the audio. So in a way, theater would have started with Radio Fusion in the morning.
Wow, so because in that area now, there's pre-TV.
Oh, yes. There was absolutely no TV at that time.
So you would say your early influences were like those BBC radio plays and that kind of stuff?
Right, there would be BBC radio plays, but there were also stories that were done in the morning, particularly on Saturday mornings, for children. And any story that you could think of that you would use for primary school children would have been played on the radio at that time. Whatever you could think of. So that by the time I got to school, all of the stories I already knew, even though I didn't have the books to read them at the time. And of course, there would have been some other radio dramas too. There would have been Clitoral Kid, and there would have been a Western, I don't remember its name offhand, but they were all there. That was our TV, that was our soapbox at the time.
Okay, so so you talked about going to school. Did you did any plays, or did you just do the usual, poems and recitations, as we call it?
I didn't do a lot of theater plays when I was going to school. I did a very little when I was going to church. And that was Christian Union Mission. They would do little dramas and so on. And I think I remember doing an angel, of all things.
So when was your first experience with theater? How was that?
Right, but the actual first experience with theater would have been at Barbados Writers' Workshop. But it didn't quite start there. Like most things, that would have been the point where you can put your finger on something and say, here is the starting point. But several things converge or conspired to make that possible. Now, the first thing I remember vividly is that we were doing a play called Macbeth, taught by the late Dennis Briggs Clark. And the way he would read Macbeth and talk about Macbeth, again, I could visualize what was happening. And I could see the drama unfold, and I could see the drama happening. And I thought, really, I like this. So literature at Fourth Form would have been a kind of a catalyst for motivating me to be interested in drama and wanted to do drama. Later on in Fifth Form, I had an acute interest in doing so. And I was aware that Earl Warner went to Parkinson School, and that I thought I could reach out to him to ask him to come and help us do some drama in the evenings. So I went ahead, I got hold of Earl. He was keen to have us, to come and help us and so on. And then he said, well, come on down and join the Writers' Workshop. I was a bit timid, obviously, but I went anyhow. And it is from there that we started off, and from there everything just went from one thing into another.
Of Kings! 2 miles of men in Kings!
Barbados did a production called Unchained that went to Carifesta in Guyana. I felt that I should have been on the team. But the fellas tell me that I ain't ready yet. We would have done workshops and everything and so on. I knew I was ready. I saw the fellas rehearsing, and I could do this thing. The fellas tell me, no, you're ready yet. You're ready. And the fellas went off to Carifesta and left me here. And I felt like a duck out of water. Like when a young fella just lost a girlfriend, how the world feels empty. Well, I felt totally empty. And I said, you see this? The next tour they're making, I must be on that tour. So when they came back, they went into rehearsal, and Anthony Hinkson did a play called Forgive Us Our Debts, a two-hander, a comedy, Jojo and Pablo. And Earl and I did that, and it was a success, a tremendous success. And then in 1974, we went on to Guyana, and I would have been handling most of the work at that time.
Theater practitioners talk about you and Earl working together. Was it just a one-off piece, or was it several different pieces written by Anthony Hinkson?
There were several pieces written by Anthony Hinkson, so that would have been Forgive Us Our Debts. We also did Crisis, and we did a few others as well. But Anthony Hinkson was the prolific writer at the time. He did most of the plays. And I must say that before 1974, a play was done at the Community Development Arts Festival, which would have been the precursor to NIFCA. So that play that he wrote was a full-length 3-act play called I, the Executioner. So that would have been done in 1973 as well. And that is why I felt that I should have been on the team to Carifesta, because I had won Best Actor that year. It was a full-length play. It was a madman, and so I did a tremendous job, it would appear, and I won Best Actor that year. So Hinkson wrote that, and then he did I, the Executioner after that. He did a play called Slave, and he also did Crisis.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you won Best Actor. Nowadays, there's no such thing. Explain that process in terms of, because we should have those kind of things now. Explain what was happening, who voted, whatever. How was that?
Right. So what would happen, they would... like we have NIFCA now. NIFCA tends now to be very short pieces of poetry or whatever. Community development did full-length plays. So plays from all over the country came together for the community the arts festival, and you would perform and it would be rated. To some extent the same way that it is evaluated and rated at NIFCA now, and they would work out who would have been the best actor. You had a semi-final, and then you went on to the final. So I remember there was Northern Dramatic Society, which was a group that Milton McCulling would have worked with from St. Peter. And I went and I saw a rehearsal of the play, or I think it was perhaps a performance. But they were good. I remember there was a guy dancing and acting and everything, and I was told that the way I was performing, it was unlikely anybody would beat me. But when I saw this performance, I was frightened. I said, this man gonna beat me. And Anthony Hinkson got annoyed and said, you see this here now? That's why tell him don't bring him here. Do not bring him in here. And I never saw another play. Anyhow, I was on the week after or whatever, and it was a sensation. It was a hit. So it would seem as though I won, and then you had to perform a second time, and they evaluated that, and they awarded Best Play, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Actress, and the whole process, and so on, the whole gamut. And I, the executioner, would have won, swept everything that year. It won Best Play, it won Best Actor, it won Best Actress, who would have been Liz Bess, who we think is Dr. Liz Bess now. Okay. It won Best Supporting Actress, Nancy Ferguson. Of course, I won Best Actor. So it really swept the table with everything.
So let's a little bit about the play. It's a provocative title. Oh yes,
right. It was about a madman. I remember it was some moons ago, so don't expect me to give all the details of it. But the director's take on that was almost like an exorcising the African out of the Barbadian, and that was the production concept that he worked with at the time. So this person being mad and being treated by this psychiatrist, trying to take out this thing and make him whole again, was interpreted as the African being exorcised from the Barbadian society.
It's a period where a lot of people talk about. Anthony Hinkson is writing, Victor Clifford is acting. When did Earl step into directing and begin this whole era that people call the golden era?
Arthur Brown would have directed Forgive Us Our Debts. And I believe he would have directed Crisis as well. David Metty would have directed Unchained, the one that I wanted to be in, that they would not allow me to take part in. But shortly after that, Earl gradually moved into directing. So he would have directed a television drama, which was a bit of poetry again strung together. Now let me say, I said again, Unchained would have been poetry strung together to create a storyline. That it was a writer's workshop, and so the emphasis for the most part in the early stages was on writing. So they did some pretty heavy dramatic poetry, and they presented that as a television project. Earl was largely responsible for directing that. So from then, Earl blossomed into directing little bits and pieces at workshop during the evening. And then he went on to direct as time went by. Shortly after that, didn't take a long time, because once the work took on that dramatic flair and the public got attracted to it, the emphasis went more on performing than on writing.
Right.
And as it became more appealing as a dramatic group, a group doing theater, Earl gravitated more towards being a director. So that would have been pretty early. So he would have become a director somewhere around 76, 77.
Okay. And around that time, you would have been doing, I see here, you would finally get to go to Carrie Festa as the Slave. Tell us about that.
Right. So Slave was very much like Waiting for Godot. And Earl directed that. Tony Thompson wrote Fuzzy sermon, and I would have been the energetic preacher in it. And then I came back, and in the second bit, we did Slave. Now, the interesting thing about Slave is that while performing at Carifesta, the lights went out.
Okay.
And I was really on. I wasn't afraid. You know, that is one of the things about young people. Young people tend not to be afraid.
Yeah.
So I said to the audience, I said, if the lights don't come back on, can we continue to play? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, let's go. And Andrea, the late Andrea Gollop, brought the lights from Fuzzy Sermon and used it as a ring at the back of the stage, and it created a whole different atmosphere altogether. Awesome. And the audience helped us. It would seem to me that the lights were going up pretty regularly in Jamaica at the time. I think that was around the oil crisis, so you can understand things like that happening. But the audience also used their searchlights to pick up our faces, and it was a totally different production, and it was a bomb at the end of it, you know. It was a rousing applause. And the morning after that, I heard people outside my door talking about those were really fantastic. But you know, Bajans are educated and they listen with it and carry on. It really was a good production.
How does that feel though to be? You got to talk about every time about theatre. As a young actor, you're overseas, you do a performance, something could have possibly gone wrong, and still, how does that feel? Tell us about it.
I was supremely confident. I was riding high with confidence. The lights going out, being confident. I said, no, I'm not afraid. This is not going to crash. I'm going to deal with this. And I asked the audience if I can continue, and they said yes. And I felt, yeah, it's all right. I'm on. I'm on. So Ponge. I must tell you something that happened again to me. I went to Canada to do a performance, and I'm jumping a bit.
No, that's okay.
But during the rehearsal, this production was directed by Darcy Boyce. So it was a kind of a talk tent. The bit that I had my accident in was a thing called Man, written by V.S. Nayapal. So this was this madman who went, he went at somebody's foot, and he was barking and so on, and then they put him on a cross and they put stones at him and things like that and so on, and then he started to curse. But while we were in Barbados rehearsing, there was this girl whose feet I barked around. She didn't react. We went to Canada, and during the rehearsal, when I barked, she go! And jumped up in the air and came back down on this finger and splintered the finger in 3 different places. This is rehearsal before we're supposed to go on. So they got frightened. They sent me to the hospital, and the doctor said, well, look, band these and let them stay together. Try not to let any split happen in between them. And we will see what happens tomorrow. When I came back, you could see the terror on everybody's face. What happened? I said, relax. I came here to perform, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. All I'm going to need is somebody to help me change these clothes. And I did that, perform, and it was once again a bomb. And Smokey Burke said, but I can't believe this, man. Nobody can believe this arm broken. Finger broken, I can't believe this. And he was really shocked then, from then. But again, it was that kind of thing. On stage, once I'm on, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
You're watching Baje TV.
I'm not from here too. Once of the young people push me down to do them dub and break dance, wearing hot pants, and you with diamond team, but all kind of things that happen.
All right, so your Be Me With Confidence is 1976, 77. What was theatre like then? What was happening there? Green room plays we hear about?
So I think around 77, Writers' Workshop had some internal problems, and I wanted to go into details of that. But Writers' Workshop, I think they break up. But at that time, anyhow, there was a kind of a, how to put this, a almost an accepted standard that you are good when you perform the green room. Even though you're doing very well in Writers' Workshop, you're touring Guyana, you're touring Jamaica, you're doing well and all that, there was still a sort of unstated value that says you are only good when you perform with Green Room. Of course, you know, Green Room would have been, for the most part, a white group. So, being the popular actor at the time, being very popular, I was sought after. And they came to me and asked me to do Looking Glass, Alice in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass, directed by Patrick Foster.
Yes.
So I did that. So I worked with them. And I got some lashes for it from sort of like the black group or the black fraction society. And they thought that, you know, I could have done better, I could do a better role, and I didn't have to go and work with the white people and that. So I got some lashes for that. I didn't mind. The experience was fine. Working with Patrick Foster, he did an excellent job in that production. I didn't mind. I worked with them again. They had a workshop of plays, and I worked with them again. It was fine. And I really feel that this experience of working with different theatre groups could only help and could only make you go, and I believe it did.
Good evening to the ladies and gentlemen of this nocturnal congregation. If promptness be the calling of the day, then let us be prompt, for punctuality is my calling. Yet, by the virtue of human weakness, the cause of all man's errors, it seems as though I am but a fractional part late. However, no matter how infinitesimally small it may be.
Writers' Workshop breaks up. I also work with Green Room, but then Stage 1 comes up as a group. In a way, what you will see as theatre history is a kind of a black continuum. There would have been Elton Martley's group. I don't remember its name offhand, but not Yoruba Yard. They did plays as well.
Okay.
They did plays before I came on the scene. In fact, some of the performers who went to Carifesta in 1974, the majority of them came from Elton's group. Okay, and so that's what I'm talking about a continuum. So there were players that went from there and they went into Writers' Workshop. Writers' Workshop break up, and then you have Stage 1. And so actors from Writers' Workshop move into Stage 1, and again, I'm at the front and I'm doing most of the work at the time. And so the first play that we would have done would be Michael Abinstead's Sweet Talk.
What was that about?
I don't remember details offhand. I remember it was directed by Michael Jilts. I think Claremont Tate was in it as well.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good cast. There was, I think, Corinne Lai. It was a cast of pretty talented actors at the time.
How was it working with people like Michael Jelks and these kind of directors that are kind of cemented in Caribbean theatre history?
Yes, yeah. Michael Jelks, you could only learn at the time. I could only learn from him.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant guy, very insightful. And inspiring as well. And he was a fine director to work with. He gives you room to create, help you create, give you ideas and things like that. So as we're talking about directors, I could also mention Raul Gibbons. Raul, equally as good, creative, inspirational, really fun to work with.
As you talk about directors, how do you think Rwanda matches up against the people? Or is that unfair question? How does he match up in that category? Because a lot of people saying Earl was the ultimate genius, and you know he was the #1 Caribbean director.
I probably would place him there, and I place him there largely because of the body of work that he would have done, and the variety of work that he would have done. But again, he had a creative genius about him, and he was able to make things come alive visually in a way that quite a few directors were not able to do. And then he was able to work with actors. There are some actors who are good at creating a concept. There are actors who are good at working with actors. I mean, directors who are good at working with actors. Now, he had the gift of all combined. Yes, I suspect largely because he was an actor himself. He was a writer. He wrote short stories. I mean, a lot of short stories and very good short stories as well. Something that a lot of people didn't know about him. So being a writer, being an actor, and then being molded into being a director, he was almost a complete director. And he was able to blend lots of things. He was able to find cultural forms and work them into the plays. His sets were also quite creative. He would use rope sometimes, but he was able to get the visual image correct and tight and get it home to the audience.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, so Bimshire, tell us a little bit about Bimshire.
Right. Again, in the same way that you had to perform with Green Room, you also had to perform with Bimshire. Bimshire was a musical.
Okay.
Right? And they would perform, this was by a group called Festival Choir at the time. And they would do these musicals every year. Very good sets as well, just like Green Room.
Yeah.
Very good sets, very entertaining, good singing, and the whole lot. And you were not really outstanding, you were not good, you were not complete if you did not perform in Bimshire, if you didn't perform in Bimshire. But that year, Ken Corsby was directing it, and he wanted me to perform. He thought that I was the best person to do it. No, I didn't sing. I can't sing very well, so I got a hit around. Yeah. But I think the acting that I did pulled me through, and we really enjoyed that. That was a good production.
Excellent. I see here, after Bimshire, is Carrie Fester in the Castle of My Skin, or what is one of these plays that people talk about in the Castle of My Skin during Irwana. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, it is the classical novel in the Castle of My Skin, and what they did is that they worked on the script, moving the script from being a book into being a stage play. Now, this is the interesting thing about Writers' Workshop. Anybody who was anybody in terms of literature, theater, art, went around Writers' Workshop, and Laming came around.
Yes.
Okay, and so they agreed that what they will do, work together, and to bring the script down to the level of a play. All right. I remember the first production was pretty close to about 4 hours in production, and they had to cut it and get it down to a level about 2.5 hours in production. It was good. It had in everything. It had in dance. It had in music. It had everything. And of course, it is the story of In the Castle of My Skin. We did that 1980.
So 81.
81, yes, 1981, Carrie Fester.
Yes.
So the challenge at the time, or the feeling at the time was, if Barbados putting on Carrie Fester, if we had a production to meet the level of the Jamaicans who were coming. Once again, I was pretty upfront. Okay, so I did the opening, a little boy from England selling a newspaper with the accent and everything. And then I did some of those boy scenes and so on. trumper and those boys playing and so on, a couple other roles. So I would have done about 3 roles in that. But it was an excellent production, very consuming, an excellent production. And if I say so myself, I think we held our own against Jamaica, I think, who brought Dog and Shepherd, if I'm not mistaken. So they were really hitting it hard. But I thought that from all reports, we were able to hit it equally as hard and represent Barbados.
This is the first time Shepherd would have been mounted?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So this is what we're talking about. Tell us about this period, 1981, all this.
On that period, theater
yeah.
was really happening. Now, we skipped a bit because between Sweet Talk, Michael Abinstead's Sweet Talk, and Carrie Festa 81, there were some other plays that were done.
Yeah.
There was
meet me at Golden Square here at 1979.
Right, 1979. Meet Me at Golden Square. So we did Meet Me at Golden Square. Meet Me at Golden Square is a kind of docudrama which traced the history of the workers' union right through to Clement Payne and Clement Payne and what he did and the birth of the workers' union. So that we did that at the Workers' Union headquarters. Again, that was a big hit. It was quite sensational. So theater was happening at all levels and in different spaces as well. But we also did some other plays we did what was it called? School's Out. By Trevor Rowan. And we also did Smile Orange. Right? I might be jumping, but I think that we did that. I'm trying to remember if we did that before 81 or we did it after.
Yours says School's Out and Smile Orange 85 and 86.
Right. Okay. So I have the sequence right now. So immediately after, so that was happening. Immediately after Carrie Festa, Barbados. Yeah. I went off the Jamaica School of Drama.
Right, I see the horse. Tell us about that.
Right, yeah. Okay. So, Lamin, seeing me performing, thought that I should go off to a drama school and do intensive work. He thought that I was doing too well not to do more work and intensive work. So among the plays that I would have done at drama school would have been The Horse. The Horse was a Greek drama. And it was a farce. So you had to learn how to do different styles of drama. That was a farce. So it was about movement, quick-paced movement, articulating at the same time, also falling as a feature of farce, and getting that together. And I remember Earl sitting in the audience and watching me and saying, "You are developing really well. You're developing an excellent sense of timing." So that was Horse. At drama school, what I also did was I did Dream of Monkey Mountain, and I also did Merchant of Venice. Both of them were directed by Raul Gibbons. Challenging plays and little time to do it in. I think Merchant of Venice was done in about 17 days. 17 days. So you can understand the kind of pressure we were under to try to get it ready. And you had to get it ready. Yeah. Yes. And I think I did some stage management on that. So a little work on stage management as well. But I had a good time doing it. The pressure of trying to get there was on in 17 days. What we would do is, it's a drama school, so you would help each other. Sometimes you would lie down on somebody's lap and learn lines and so on. You get tired, you sleep on somebody, get back up and you go on, that kind of thing and so on. So we had that to do and so on. I remember doing Dream of Monkey Mountain, and Henry Mutu saw the performance and said to me, you were developing a real Caribbean aesthetic the way you were performing. But it was good. I did Moustique, and again, that was an excellent production. I enjoyed doing that.
So you would say that drama school, drama training is important?
I think so, definitely. Yes, Yes. I think you need to do that intensive work. Yeah. You need to be aware of several things.
Yes.
You need to be aware of your body and how you're using your body as an instrument. You need to be aware of your voice and how you're working your voice, what you're doing with consonant songs, what you're doing with, vowel songs, what you are doing. And you need to know what you're doing with your face and to work your face. And sometimes you can get lazy and not working your face and just saying the lines and going on. But a drama school, that kind of intensive exercise will focus you on every aspect of your work.
Excellent. So what happened? You completed the school. What happened after that? What was the journey after that?
Right, so I came back home in 1984, and a play was being done called Let's Go Bajan. Alison Seeley Smith was in it.
Yes.
That was directed by Martin Fido. And so they wanted to go to England, but they wanted someone who could learn lines fast and who could do it quick and who was available. So they came to Victor Clifford. So I got in there, learned the lines quickly. And you see how a drama school helps.
Yeah, exactly.
You see? Because you know how to learn lines quickly now. And in a short space of time, you have this assignment to do. So I did it.
Yeah.
We did it, and we did the performance here. And then it went to England.
Push now. You pushing out. You standing there with your face like a ramgot one. Push.
Finally, through some miracle, the foot went in, never to come back out again. Lord have mercy, I prayed in my heart. When the other shoe was first,
I am in the midst of things in full stride, and they decide that they're going to do Caribbean plays. Now, the stage one's emphasis was to work Caribbean plays, Caribbean classical plays, and try to lift the standard of drama in the country overall. There was the rumor that it was a middle class group, and I should not go with this middle class group. You're getting lectures all the while, every now and then, right? You shouldn't go with this middle class group or whatever. Anyhow, being the actor that was sought after, I went along and I enjoyed it. So we did Schools Out. And Schools Out was a satire written by Trevor Rowan, on the school system, the education system. And that was a success. Really, I enjoyed doing that. And we also did Smile Orange. Smile Orange went to Carifesta, I believe it went to Carifesta in 1973. But then it became a film.
Yeah.
And then we did it here on stage. So those who, looking on and who have an appreciation for theater.
Or when you're drinking water. And some other stage too. I will teach you another day. Thanks, my man. Another day. You and your rules come another day. On your first day, I teach you about the personnel. What's personnel? Boy, you dumb or what? You never worked in an office before. I never worked in an office before, but I not that man. Cool down, Benji, man. Take it easy, man. You didn't know what personnel was before you can't work in an office? I can't remember. I've been here a long time in Rasta. How long? 3 months.
Drama is really on a high now. All of that period, at that time, and I must make this point, at that time, 81, 84, all of that time, Calypso is not ruling the roost. Drama is ruling the roost more so than Calypso.
Wow.
So much so that I remember when Adonijah did Woman, we had more people in Queen's Park Theatre than they had at the finals the night.
Wow.
And several nights they would have been doing their thing. They didn't have as much people as we had, because Calypso didn't start to rule the roost yet. However, the tent started to take off. And Earl came up with the idea that in the same way that you can have a tent with singing, we can have a tent with talking.
Yes.
And that is how the concept of Talk Tent came about. And what he did is that he would collect classical pieces from writings throughout the Caribbean and dramatize them, put them on stage, improvise bits and pieces in between there, and we'd go down the road with our talk tent. And talk tent was a hell of a success.
I know for years people always talk about going to talk tent.
Yes.
How long did it run? Tell us about some of the experiences of talk tent.
I don't remember. You probably have to look at the bio and see exactly how many years it went on for. But we had the best of all the actors in Barbados to come and join. It was singing, it was dance, it was music, it was comedy, and it was some seriousness as well. Yeah. And it, of course, it was not a play in the classical sense of play. We have Act 1, Scene 1, Act 2, and so on. There would have been different pieces going one after the other and things like that and so on. In a way, like you can imagine a talk tent. You know, you can imagine a tent where there's lots of talking, but it was a lot of stories that were being dramatized in one form or another. And sometimes we'd even dramatize poetry. And it was entertaining. It was, it was palatable, quite palatable. And everybody performed in Talk Tent. Sade performed in Talk Tent. Farrell performed in Talk Tent. Mel Smith performed in Talk Tent. Cicely performed in Talk Tent. Tony Thompson performed in Talk Tent. There were dancers. Debbie Tate performed in Talk Tent. Femi, and who passed on. Femi performed in Talk Tent. So everybody. I didn't mention that Andrea performed in. Well, the late Andrea performed in Smile Orange and did a fantastic job as well. But Andrea would also perform in Talk Tent. So everybody, once you had ability, it attracted the very best in the at the time.
But what happened now?
I'm sorry you're late.
And you had to interrupt me?
I'm sorry you're late. I'm feeling
Well, as you hear, I might as well introduce you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Euphemia Small to render her rendition. Give her a hand for me, please.
Oh, it was a lovely funeral. 132 guards and 3 of them packed high with flowers. And the streets thronged with people.
So Talk Tent breaks up. In fact, stage 1 breaks up.
Oh, okay.
There's a... I don't want to go into details of what caused it to break up. I certainly don't want to do that right now. But it breaks up. And 2 groups come about as a result of that. In fact, you might call it 3, but 2 groups in particular. One is Laugh It Off, and the other is Bajan Bus Stop. So because of the, whatever you want to call it, the shenanigans, the whatever that happened that caused stage 1 to break up, also was the catalyst for those 2 groups to form. And the theater was happening. Yes. So they did their thing and they were doing quite well. But also, Pampalam was happening as well. And again, being, somewhat the actor sought after, I was invited to perform in Pampalam. So I did the first Pampalam, and I remember this very well. You all might not know this, and the audience might not know this either. Gabby was in that first Pampalam. What? That Pampalam that I did. Gabby performed with Cynthia, and this was about this husband who was helping the sick wife and so on, and he went and bought this can thing and give her, and he actually gave her dog food. And Gabby was an actor. Yes.
I heard that he was an actor.
Yes.
But I didn't know he was in the first Pampalam.
But he was. It wasn't. I don't think it was the very first Pampalam, but he was in the first one that I did.
Wow.
Right. And however, I did a good job, and from then until I think the end of whatever I have there, I would have been a stalwart in Pampalam, or main person in Pampalam. Or what I would have done, as I would have done in Talk 10, is I would have done several roles in one night. in one show.
Right.
And I think that was my strength, was that my versatility, might be able to do Tootsie, to do a young boy, to do an old man, and that would have been the hallmark of Victor Clifford at the time.
Well, let's talk about that as an aspect of kind of Caribbean Bajan theater, playing several roles in a piece, which I personally enjoy. And I do remember seeing you. One of my first experiences of seeing Victor Clifford was you in a khaki outfit as a big man with a beard and mustache and an afro. But you sold to me that you were a little boy.
Right.
Yeah.
That is one of the things about going to drama school, and also one of the things about working with Earl as well, because he would challenge you to get these things done. So you would have to do, you would be costumed appropriately, obviously, but you would have to do whatever you have to do to become the character you're supposed to become. So you are a little boy, and I think I remember what you're talking about. We would have used back some work from In the Castle of My Skin, but I think that thing that you did, that you're talking about, I'd probably see if we get your footage on it, that you can see with these boys playing this bit from In the Castle of My Skin, trumpet and so on, and also I think in that would have been Easter Carol by Tom Clark as well. That little boy getting dressed and going to Sunday school, going to church that Easter morning. But that was in there. So you were challenged to use your body, and that's the thing about Talk 10. And to some extent, Papa Lam as well, in that it was this concept of moving towards poor theater. Not that the theater was poor, but that because you were poor, you had to use your body and everything around you to make that work, since you did not have the money to do it. And so, because we were working the idea of poor theater, we had to use your body to become whoever and whatever you will become. So sometimes bodies became gambling machines. Bodies became whatever that you had to use. You see a lot of boxes being used in the theater and so on, right? And that could become a bicycle, that could become anything and whatever and so on. So the challenge at the time was to use your body to maximum effect to get what you want. And that was a challenge, and we rose to the challenge and did what we had to do.
Hold your hand.
I wanted to challenge the notion that you had to do another job. And I almost got it done. I could perform, and especially when Papa Lam came around as well, I could perform and have enough money that I didn't have to necessarily work. So at that time, you could get away with it. In fact, part of the problem that caused Stage 1 to dissolve was a money problem.
Okay.
And I would also say that most of the problems that cause groups to dissolve and break up were money problems. However, we were able to do pretty well, and if you were working, then it was twice, twice as good. But it is a challenge to do theater alone, because theater was happening, so you could really do it and you could live relatively comfortably, right? The secret to that, however, is that you would perform here, but you had to tour other places as well. That way, you could live as a professional. If you had to live only on the money here, you wouldn't be able to make it. So what you would have to do is tour the Caribbean, and then tour North America, hit Canada, come back home, and you would have enough money to be able to do it. I believe it can still be done, but, the groups tend to have some problems every now and then, and it is not a singer who holds a microphone and you can work alone. You have to work with groups, and sometimes you have to get past personal things and understand that there's a larger movement that you're working with so that this thing can survive.
We'll be right back with more Victor Clifford on Baje Stage TV after this.
Earl is working with singing groups in Jamaica and helping them come together. He also worked with Sing Out Barbados. Okay, so what he did, I suspect, or if my memory serves me correctly, what he did is that he took Gabby's songs up to that point in time and created a storyline out of it. So you have the young Gabby and you have the old Gabby. So what Carol Roberts was the producer at the time, and she thought that the best person to perform young Gabby would have been Victor Clifford. And so I did that. Again, I couldn't sing. again, I was terrified of the notion and said, okay, no, we work around that. We work around it. And it was a good performance. I enjoy that performance. I didn't have to sing, fortunately. Remember Black Stallion was there. Yes, it was an excellent production.
Millie married to Jonathan, and I can't get a man?
Girlfriend name is Sonia. I said she come from California with 10 little eyes and 10 little toes, and that is the way my story goes. She L-O-V-E love me, and she K-I-double-S kiss me in the P-A-R-K park, in the D-A-R-K dark.
What happened in the past, and particularly in the initial stages, is that you could get things at a cost and things that were affordable. So paint was affordable, but not only that, companies would give you paint, would sponsor you paint, would sponsor this and sponsor that. And I remember the Nation was a fledgling newspaper with very little to go on. The Nation was at the back of St. Mary's, and it was a fledgling newspaper. Nobody was paying the Nation much mind. The Advocate was the established newspaper. So the Nation at the time would write reviews of plays. So you would get newspaper coverage. You could give away tickets on radio stations, on different radio stations, and that would be a form of advertising. That does not happen now. You could go and you could do interviews on the radio, different interviews on different radio stations in the same day or whatever and so on, and they were happy to have you, to have local programming, to have things being done and so on. That doesn't happen now. If you want advertising, you have to pay for advertising. If you want to give away 2 tickets, you can't do it like that anymore. You have to speak to the advertising side of the radio station and let them know that you plan to give away tickets, and they have to agree to that and understand that there might be a cost attached to that before you can give away those 2 tickets. So advertising, which is now probably 60% of your budget, is now would have been cut significantly to about 20% of that. Right? That is now your biggest cost right now, and you cannot get around it. And while people would have donated or sponsored paint and helped with sets and things like that and so on, set construction, material or whatever, that doesn't happen now. You have to pay for every single thing, so that the cost of putting on a production now could take you between $20,000 and $40,000. And you have to make that back now in about 3 weekends. And chances are at this point in time, you're not going to do it. I think we missed the boat at some point in time where we allowed the Queen's Park Theatre, the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre, to run to ruins. We lost a theatre audience. And ever so often people would meet me and say, I used to go to Queen's Park and I used to enjoy those plays in Queen's Park and so on. That went to sleep, and that audience went to sleep. That audience is now a matured audience. And what we did not do is keep on capturing young audiences as we went along. Theatre went to sleep, and unfortunately, those who are doing theatre now have a tremendous task of trying to capture young people and pulling them into theatre.
As I look around the room and see the sprightest countenances of this splendiferous gathering, my heart is filled to overflowing with such sententious sentiments that to express myself as befit my station as chairman of this auspicious occasion is, as the laddie would say, difficultatis. Meaning, not easy at all.
The year they have to select the best actor for the year or the most improved actor for the year. And who was the most improved actor for the year? Victor Clifford. Okay. Right. So we would have been doing Forgive Us Our Debts. Forgive Us Our Debts is a two-hander, Earl and I. And if you know anything about two-hand, it's not easy to do. However, if you and your partner are in tune, the audience will never ever know any mistake is wrong. Or if you go down a road, you can pull one another around and come back up and get on track and go, and the audience will not be aware that anything is going wrong. Earl and I had that.
Right.
But we also knew the script, that particular script. We made no mistakes. My memory is good. And so they're about to change Queen's Park Theatre from Queen's Park Theatre to Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre. And they needed a performance in the theatre to go with it. Now that play was the epitome of what you call minimalist theatre. Not a single thing is on the set. We mime everything or whatever and so on, right? Not a single thing is on the set. And we just run that play for about 45 minutes to an hour, right? Just like that. So they wanted the play to open the theatre with. Did they have anything? And who they got? Forgive Us Our Debts, Victor Clifford and Earl Warner.
Wow.
Yes, to open it and to name it, yes. A lot of work is not happening, right? And well, the theatre is not happening. Theatre fell asleep. The Queen's Park Theatre went to ruins. Nothing is happening there. Combermere is not used particularly as a theatre venue anymore. The Steel Shed is not really a popular place. As you know, it could be hot. And if the rain is falling, then then the rain could damage the production. So we don't have many venues. I think Laugh It Off is moving around to find different places to use as a venue, and not one of them could match Queen's Park Theatre. Okay. However, little work is being done, and so what we have then is that we have to go to Carifesta, and you find once again the best people that are available to do Carifesta, and you can find a work that will represent Barbados. And so I remember doing a couple Carifestas, and one was Timothy Calendar's, how music came to the ancient people, but that was scripted by Kamau Brathwaite.
Okay.
Yes, Edward Kamau Brathwaite. And I did a small role in it. And I remember Kamau saying to me, that is what you call a master at his craft. You did so little, but yet still it looked like so much. And we don't want you to come off the stage.
If I don't come back in an hour's time, call to Son's funeral home.
We also did a tribute to Bruce St. John, and that went to Suriname.
Yeah, I'm seeing Suriname 2003.
Right, yes. So we took Bruce's work, and again, we try to create sometimes a storyline, but sometimes it's not always a storyline. But there are different pieces, different things happening. And what we did is theater in the round. So we are on stage for the entire production, sitting in a circle, and then when it comes to be your time, you will get up and perform your bit and so on. It was an excellent production. We started at Cave Hill, and then we took it away. We took it down to the Steel Shed. The thing about that, I remember that stands out about my mind, is Bruce's wife saw the production and she was so in awe about the production. She liked it so much. She said, like, I'm sorry that Bruce was not here to see this, to see his work done like this. And I want to say this to you all. when some person is alive, do these kinds of things.
Yes.
Say these kinds of things to them. Don't wait till they pass to do it. And maybe we should bear that in mind. People's work that must be done now, whether it be Anthony Hinkson,
Yes.
let's do it now. Whether it be the same, well, Timmy has gone on, but if you need to pay tribute to him, let's do it now before it gets too late. Whoever is here now that we need to give tribute to, I think that we need to do it, and do it now before they pass on.
Yes.
Or before, the work is not even available in some format and you can't do the best or justice to it.
I'm Sonia Suzette Williams. I'm bringing the love to Baje Stage TV. I'm a theater director, writer, performance artist, theater educator, and I love the life.
What is happening now at the university is that people are taking the history and dramatizing the history. So Black Jacobins is a dramatization of the Haitian Revolution. But before that, there was, and his name is not coming to me right now, but it might be there. Before that, we did King Jaja.
Yes, King Jaja.
And King Jaja is the story of King Jaja. Now, from what I understand, Professor Beckles had, did some work on it during a course.
Yeah.
And out of this course, one of the students wrote that play. That play came out.
Yeah.
So it is the story of King Jaja. King Jaja won't let Beck alone. Here we have the first of those kinds of plays being done where the history is being dramatized. So that is King Jaja. But then we go and we have the Black Jacobins. Okay? Now the Black Jacobins is such a success that the Rex Nettleford saw the production. Now he knew the book. He knew the book and knew the play.
Yeah.
And he said, I read the play and I could not imagine the play being performed or being performable. But when he saw it, he was very pleased with it. He said we did justice to it and it went down very well. So I suspect that would have been a catalyst for doing more histories, or the genesis of more histories. So Professor Beckles, he does several histories. What he does is that he dramatizes the history behind the heroes, or national heroes. So we have Bussa, we have you can help me because Samuel Chapman Prescott, you have Grantley Adams, Sarah Ann Gill. Yes,
Yeah.
okay. And yes, again, but this team is a team of some relatively new actors, young actors, fresh, enthusiastic, and quite competent, capable. And again, we are doing this here in a very short space of time.
Yes.
And we have the pressure of trying to get it on in a short space of time. Again, reminiscent of drama school, but we do it. They're young, they're vibrant, they're enthusiastic, they're talented, and they do an excellent job of presenting this. And it is I would like, we spoke about it earlier, but I would like to see some of those plays edited, perhaps, and redone.
Yes.
I think that something did not happen as well as it could with those plays, and that is the marketing of those plays.
Yes, for sure.
Too few people saw those plays. Some are available on DVD. But of course, DVD does not do justice to a stage play.
Yes.
So it would be interesting, and I think it could only be rewarding for the audience, if no one else, to have those plays performed again. Well directed. I'm not saying that they were not well directed, but well directed, edited, tightened, and presented and marketed well and presented to the public. I think they have missed a lot by not seeing these plays.
Of those pieces were used and edited by Sonia Williams and presented. I say I would love to see those plays put on again. So really and truly then, we can say that the post-Golden era kind of flowed into what we could call the Heraclidian era, where the only thing that was really happening in plays outside of Laugh It Off was the historical plays.
Yes. So we can say it's the Heraclid, Professor Beckles era.
Correct.
Because Professor Beckles is writing.
Yes.
And this is the crucial point that you will notice at the beginning, we start off with Writer's Workshop.
Yes.
Writer's Workshop, and the reason that Writer's Workshop is prolific, the reason that Writer's Workshop is outstanding, is because they are writing. So what we need, and I didn't mention this, but I should mention it as I'm here now. What happened at one stage is that there was an SO Arts Festival.
Yes.
Organized by Cynthia Wilson. Farrell would have written one of those plays. I think I performed his. And there were about 4 or 5 plays. So there was sponsorship to have people write. And once these plays are written, then these plays are performed. What we have is that we have a dearth of writing. We don't have many people writing at all, and we don't have interesting plays. And you know, like I said, your problems are compounded by costs.
Correct.
Okay, and so you have a total drying up of theater. To me, which is unfortunate, and I think that it may be a good thing in that it might force people to move towards working in the area of film. So it might be, but I don't think there's a good substitute for theater anyhow. I think that theater has its place. I think film has its place. The difference is, however, that film can reach places where theater might not be able to reach.
It is not that I don't respect Africa as the root of all. That's true for all Caribbean people and for all the people of the world. But being independent is about being Barbadian.
So I went to England and with Let's Go Bajan, and with Victor Romeo was that I met and said to me, look, you are a quality performer. Don't go back to Barbados. But I like the old lady, and that was the pull all the while. And my old lady, she was here alone, nobody else was there, and I didn't want to leave her alone, right? And there's another reason. Then I went to Boston with a talk tent. I think there's Boston. We toured Boston, Hartford, and then I went to Storytellers Festival that same year. And while I was there, again, the guy who put us up said, "You are Broadway material. Don't go back home. Stay here. I will look after you. You're going to make it." Again, it was the old lady. And I also had a tug of wanting to be home, wanting to perform for my people, our people. Somehow I feel that maybe I should have taken a different road.
One more they got to answer, you know. So how we could be the most important? You ever hear the saying that a chain is as strong as the weakest link?
Now I teach, or I used to teach up until September this year, theater arts at Parkinson School. And I remember a child called LaSanta Davis. We'll never forget her. LaSanta Davis was as good as Cicely, if not better. There's also Akila Monaville.
Yes, I remember her.
Right? I call her my daughter. She's still close. She went to school there, did a lot of work. That group that I had at Parkinson School, again, was kind of a golden group. Whenever they went to NIFCA, they medaled. And I didn't have to tell them to rehearse. They were so well groomed. They were going to rehearse on their own. They loved it and what have you and so on. The challenge is, or the problem is, or was, some place for them to go after that. Now, you would have had the Writers' Workshop at one stage. You would have had stage 1 at one stage. These young people need those institutions, those avenues where they can go perform and showcase their work to Barbados and ultimately to the world. So it's not so much the advice I would give to young people. I think that the adults in this community need now to find those avenues for those young people to showcase their talents. Lasanta and Akila has gone on to study and what have you. She will find her way. But there are a lot of talented young people who have no way to showcase their talents. And we must be failing them if we do not create those structures, if we do not create the environment for them to work the skill and showcase that talent. If we don't, we're going to end up with this desert that we currently have.
Oh my goodness, who's this game married? Oh, Christ, Mr. Scott. Oh, Lord, this boy child of yours look first class. Look, you should be grateful you have such a nice mother here. You don't intend to forget that mother of yours when you grow up to be a man. Because, and if you do, the birds of vengeance can pick out your two blasted eyes, I tell you.
No, please, Miss Lavinia, I won't forget my mother.
Good. Well, go down the road in the name of the Lord and sing that solo like if you was an angel. Wait a minute. Miss Garrett, you get us boy any fresh crispy biscuits I put with the boys?
No, I use that raw.
Biscuits good for the boys. If you don't got none, they got some fresh ones inside. Right. Wait a minute, love.
Say thanks, you hear me?
Oh, they're shut there for me, love.
All right, darling.
Look, biscuits will do wonders for the boys. Now listen, eat these whilst you're singing. And when you begin to sing that solo, then people in that cathedral can think that you're the Michael the Archangel. Go on. You look too nice.
Thanks, Miss Lavinia.
You're welcome anytime, son. Oh, Lord.
Wow, we want to thank Victor Clifford so much for joining us here on Baje Stage TV, and we want to thank you guys for joining us here on Baje Stage TV. Thank you NCF for allowing us here at the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre. Join us again on Baje Stage TV when we talk to the one and only Cynthia Wilson. That's right. Join us next time here on Baje Stage TV. I'm Di Brown saying lights down.